Midterm elections are upon us, with the polls set to open on Election Day just 7 hours from now at 6 a.m. The biggest race this year could be one of the closest we've seen in years to take over the governor's office. Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin is challenging Democrat incumbent Kathy Hochul for the state's top office. The governor spending her election eve right here in her native Western New York. Hochul attending this Get Out the Vote tally at Sattler City here in downtown Buffalo. Many of the area's top Democrats on hand, throwing their support behind the governor just hours before the polls open here in New York.
We've worked hard for 14 months, but I know with a 4-year term and the opportunity to help us turn the page on this global pandemic and the inflation and all the stresses that people are under, people will look back at our time, just as we look back at FDR's time, and say, how did they do that? And it was the power of the people believing in the same values.
Meantime, the governor's opponent, Congressman Lee Zeldin, crisscrossing the state over the past few days, including a campaign stop here in Western New York yesterday. Today, the congressman paid a visit to the scenes of several high-profile crimes. Zeldin says he wants to declare a crime emergency here in the state of New York, and he wants to suspend New York's cashless bail law immediately. He says the difference between these two campaigns is night and day.
We've seen the enthusiasm gap for a while. It's shown themselves in different respects. While she was rallying a few days ago with Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, we had 10 times as many people showing up at our rally in the Capital region. There's clearly a big energy gap and enthusiasm gap between the two campaigns.
A poll by Emerson College conducted just last week shows Hochul has a 9-point lead over Zeldin heading into Election Day. Somebody may be watching over you when you cast your ballot tomorrow. We're talking about poll watchers. They're nothing new, but they could be a lot more noticeable here in Western New York than in years past. Olivia Proya has more on why that is, along with the rules they must follow.
The Erie County GOP is calling for volunteer poll watchers.
We're making sure we know which polling places are turning out in key areas so that we can continue to have our volunteers make phone calls, make voter contact to drive every last Republican, conservative, and independent voter who wants to change this state out tomorrow night.
Are there specific areas you'll be sending poll watchers to, or is it all across the county?
We're going to be obviously monitoring some of our key races, right? We've got a very competitive race here in the town of Tonawanda, Amherst, Grand Island, with the 61st State Senate District race, the 142nd Assembly seats extraordinarily close, but then we have a countywide ticket, so every polling place matters.
While monitoring polls, these volunteers must follow the state's poll watcher laws. The first rule, which only applies to primaries. Any party committee and any candidate on the ballot can have 3 poll watchers per election district at a time. Second, watchers can only be present at the polling place at least 15 minutes before the examination of any voting machine or ballot box at the opening of the polls and until the signing of the inspector's returns and proclamation of the result.
Poll watchers are folks that are able to get a certificate, a poll watching certificate from either a campaign or a party to go to the polls and collect the information at the end of the night or in the beginning of the day or at different points during the day to get how many voters are at each site.
The third rule, watchers must be appointed by a certificate in writing issued by an appointing authority. Watchers are appointed by the chair or another officer of a party committee, independent body, or political committee. And fourth, each watcher must be a qualified voter of the county in which he or she is to serve.
And a lot of times it's committee members, rank and file folks that are getting the numbers for their districts that they represent, and a lot of times it's candidates that want to monitor the turnout at some certain places.
And that's exactly what the chairman of the Erie County Republican Committee says their goal is, to monitor turnout. They're not calling for poll watchers because they don't trust the election process.
I have the utmost confidence in our Erie County Board of Elections team. I'm in constant communication with my partner, Commissioner Ralph Moore, and his counterpart, Commissioner Zellner.
Olivia Proya, 7 News.